Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Debate the News, the original news source for social audio. My name is Scotty Sources. I'm here with Mickey, and we are going to give you the news today and debate about it. Hit it, Bang! That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We got an
Dog player, I get it. Fraud player, I get it.
come up to the stage, ladies and gentlemen. We got a big night tonight.
Player getting violated, running that whole whip. Two fingers up, one down.
Hey, folks, ping your friends, invite them in, ping your friends, invite them in. Let them know that we are live. Share the room, folks, share the room. Debate the News is live. Hey, if you're listening to us at home, make sure you guys download Chatter Social.
This ain't staying in Vegas.
It's available on Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Also, if you're in the room up top, we have Debate the News, the podcast. That's right, folks, we are a podcast. So make sure you guys follow that podcast and download a few episodes while you're at it. Let's go.
Hey, who the hound dog is today? That Elon guy.
Get it? I know you
He
got
sure has changed his tune.
someone that could
We
prove
got a lot more coming about that today, so
at the door to my city. You gon' need to tell my brothers where you from, and I admit it. I still got empathy, and you gon' feel it for 2
once
weeks.
again, we are live on Chatter Social.
Dog, player,
V2 coming very soon. If you're listening to this podcast,
I get it.
get involved. You too can have an opinion. Gonna be electric. Grab a drink if you do that, or
Hound dog. Let's do this, guys. What you got, Bar?
that is right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Debate the News. We are live here on Chatter Social. You can download in the App Store or Google Play. And we are got some big surprises coming with that. But back to what we're doing today. We are talking to the news and going to debate it. We're going to have several topics tonight. And I imagine what happened today with Elon is going to be a big part of the show. I don't want to take up any more of this. I want to get right to our datelines. Miki, what do you have for us?
Awesome sauce. Thank you so much. The first thing, a disgusting abomination. Elon Musk doubles down on his criticisms of Trump's big, beautiful bill. Put your hand in the air if you knew that the girls were going to be fighting. I know there are some people that are victorious and making bets because we knew that two of the biggest egos in the history of the world would absolutely get into it. Elon Musk offered his harshest rebuke yet of President Trump's signature big, beautiful tax and spending bill advancing on Capitol Hill, saying it is instead a disgusting abomination. Wow, that's pretty strong words from Elon. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. Not Elon invoking our good Lord. He has been posting so much today, adding at another point next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. He's right, posted Rep. Thomas Massey of Kentucky, one of at least three Republican lawmakers who quickly echoed Musk. So some dissent, Musk. I'm going to start calling him Elon Musk. So some dissent in the White House, and we will get into this later. Pete Hegseth's new press secretary posted deranged claims about lynching. Have you guys heard about this? Kimberly Kingsley Wilson, formerly a deputy press secretary at the Department of Defense, was appointed as the Pentagon's chief press secretary on May 23rd, and pretty much just showing some false information about Jewish men being lynched in 1915 after a wrongful conviction. So again, not the best that's in the White House right now. That's okay because we can always prepare for midterms a little early. ICE just arrested 1,400 people. Here's how many had criminal charges. Of the 1,461 arrests made as part of Operation Patriot, now that's just downright cruel. Only 790 individuals, or roughly 54%, had criminal convictions or charges. Meanwhile, about 19% had received final orders of removal or deportation. So I'm not really sure if we're going after just people that have broken the law or just people that we don't really want here anymore. The FDA has updated a tomato recall to its highest risk warning of illness or death. My goodness. So if you're making that pizza at home and using fresh tomatoes, yeah, if you're in one of these states, maybe not. You need to look up and see if your recent produce will be impacted. The latest recall is for three states: Georgia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Has the FDA ever said if you eat this, you're going to die? Okay, well, that's pretty serious language. So make sure you guys check if you were in those states. The Boulder suspect's wife, kids in ICE custody. The wife and children of Boulder, Colorado terrorism suspect Mohammed Suleiman, probably mispronouncing that, are in the custody of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and the family is being processed for expedited removal. So I kind of agree with this one. If you are going to be in this country, they're going to take away your entire family if you do something bad. So sorry to his family, but hey, we're in the Trump administration, and you guys should expect this. And lastly, as boomers are forced to unretire because they've not saved enough, 6-year-olds in Germany could actually have their own retirement accounts. And I'm landing with that because I do believe one good thing in Mr. Trump's big, beautiful bill is actually starting to put away, I believe, $1,000 for children that are born within a certain time period. I am definitely pro financial literacy and definitely pro the federal government putting away a certain amount of money for future little people that may be used towards retirement or a down payment or the start of a business. Back to you, Barth. Scott.
Wow, thank you for that, Mickey. Wow, just an amazing, nonpartisan Dateline. It was
Yeah,
just
that was good.
fantastic. Adrian, are you there? Let's get a little bit lighter side of the things. What's going
Well,
on?
Scotty, some days you got light days, some days you got dark days, and it's nighttime. So the following story, actually, I need to do a trigger warning. So they're not as light as you may like. This story may be distressing or triggering for some listeners, so please take care while listening to this story or mute yourself or mute the thing because this one is really sad. Out of Washington State, police in Washington State intensified a manhunt for Travis Caleb Decker, a 32-year-old Wenatchee man accused of killing his three daughters, 5, 8, and 9, near Leavenworth Campground, per the New York Times. The girls, found Monday, I'm sorry to say this, with plastic bags over their heads, were reporting missing after Decker failed to return them to their mother post visitation. Decker faces 3 counts of first-degree murder and kidnapping. The Wenatchee School District, where the girls attended, Lincoln Elementary, offered counseling. Police believe Decker, last seen in a gray 2013 Dodge Ram, may be armed and hiding in the Cascade. I think there's a story behind that. Per Pamela, she was telling me that the Amber Alert was not notified, and there's some reasons for that. So we'll come back and share more information on that or on Debate the News True Crime. Oh, Scott, do you know in California there's a wildfire, a fast moving one too? It's dubbed the Mariposa Blaze, 5,000 acres near Yosemite National Park, prompting evacuations. So, fueled by dry conditions, 40 mile per hour winds, it's 10% contained with 1,200 firefighters battling it. No homes are lost yet, but after last year, everyone's keeping an eye on anything with a fire. Yeah, this is like dark days. Tragedy Tuesday is what I'm calling it today. So, did you know about the subway derailment in Brooklyn, Coney's Island at 8:15 a.m. this morning, injuring 35 passengers? 7 are in critical condition due to a track switch failure. That's always been my fear, too. The incident disrupted rush hour service, stranding thousands. Mayor Eric Adams promised a full investigation while commuters criticize aging infrastructure. The derailment, the third in New York City subways this year, renews calls for federal funding to upgrade the 120-year-old system. Unions say understaffing may have delayed maintenance. Okay, out of Richmond, Virginia, a proposed gun control bill requiring universal background checks stalled in the state Senate. Oh, per the Washington Post, Democrats pushed for stricter laws after recent shootings, but Republican senators argued it infringes on Amendment rights. The deadlock, debated in a tense session, has activists on both sides rallying with no vote scheduled yet. By the way, gun laws divide deeply, engaging civil debate to find common ground, interesting conversation. Oh, Scott, this is going to be like my favorite. If you know me, you know me. So today, Denver, Colorado, state lawmakers debated how to allocate $200 million dollars in marijuana tax revenue. Proposals include funding schools or mental health programs, but some Republicans want tax cuts instead. The heated talks covered in a public hearing highlights the competing priorities as cannabis funds grows. Oh my God. I will weed that story out. And the moment I have more information, I will highly give it to you. Tried to do a few puns there. I'm sure it didn't come out too great. By the way, be careful if you're in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, because you've got heavy storm coming in, and we know what that was looking like. So very scary times there. And Scotty, just in case anyone's interested, and this is kind of in your backyard in a weird way, in Jacksonville, North Carolina, police discover a body near Gum Branch Road in Branchwood. Authorities believe the person had been deceased for some time with no immediately threat to the community, but the investigation is ongoing. I share this story because sometimes these smaller towns, they don't get the recognition of like, well, there's a dead body and you need to know that. And so I just wanted to make sure that I contribute to the local news in your neck of the woods. Scotty Sources, back to you.
Wow, Adrian, you always come with some interesting stories there. Obviously, I want to comment it on the tax revenue that cannabis generates for this country. In 2024 alone, states collected 4.4 billion in recreational cannabis tax revenue. That is a lot of money for something that is helping a lot of people. And I've been of the opinion for a long time, and I'm kind of feel like this might be Trump's ace in the hole, have you? When shit really hits the fan, is somehow getting the country on board to federally legalize it. You just think about the tax revenue that could generate, and in my opinion, would eliminate a lot of alcohol related uh, crimes and different things. But that's just my opinion. The other story I wanted to go to, sadly, and I followed this a little bit today. The I'm not going to even call him a father or a dad. The evil person that murdered three young girls over obviously what's a custody dispute.
Accused. We
Um,
don't just be careful of the wording. So accused of killing.
all right. Well, this is the perfect example of why I do like Trump's CCOT thought on sending Americans to a place that is essentially hell before they get to hell. This is a person that needs a one-way ticket. Not to be giving too many personal opinions here, but there's some more I definitely want to say, but I want to save it for the show. Let's see. We have one more dateline. Debbie, are you there?
I am here.
Fantastic. What do you got for us today?
So, first, I want to start off with hotel security officer testifies Sean Combs paid $100,000 to suppress the assault video. The trial of hip hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs took a dramatic turn when a former hotel security officer testified that Combs paid $100,000 in cash to suppress surveillance footage of his 2016 assault on singer Cassie Ventura. The video, which has since surfaced, shows Combs kicking and dragging Ventura in a Los Angeles hotel hallway. Prosecutors argue that the cover up is part of a broader pattern of coercion and abuse spanning decades. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all charges, maintaining that his relationships were consensual. Anyway. Okay, firings, pardons, and policy shifts have gutted the DOJ anti corruption efforts, experts say. In a sweeping overhaul of the Justice Department, the Trump administration has dismantled key anti corruption units, raising alarms among legal experts. The administration has forced out most of the lawyers in the DOJ's Public Integrity Section, disbanded an FBI squad investigating congressional misconduct, and prioritized immigration enforcement over white collar crime. Meanwhile, Trump has issued a wave of pardons to Republican lawmakers convicted of felonies, further eroding oversight mechanisms. Critics warn that these moves have created the ripest environment for corruption in a generation. And lastly, Trump is frustrated by Justice Amy Coney Barrett and other Supreme Court picks. Behind closed doors, President Trump has expressed frustration with the Supreme Court justices he appointed, particularly Justice Amy Coney Barrett Coney. Yeah, what I can't say that. Anyway, sources say Trump believes Barrett and others have not done enough to back his agenda, with some allies labeling her as weak. Barrett's recent rulings, including her vote against Trump's effort to freeze foreign aid, have drawn ire from conservative circles. While Trump has not publicly attacked Barrett, his private grievances signal growing tensions between the administration and the judiciary. And back to you, Scotty.
Thanks for that, Debbie. Uh, that was the first time I've heard your Dateline, and that was very good. Um, I'm really interested. Do you have any more on the Supreme Court issue with Justice Barrett? What specifically? I know there's been um, some kind of he hasn't liked some of her decisions in the past. What brought this up today to make the news?
Give me a minute, I'll get you some more.
She's DEI.
Well, he picked her.
Well, I mean, remember how many people Trump actually appointed or tried to put in place, and he didn't officially appoint them his first administration? We kind of saw something similar with Elon Musk, right? Kind of, oh, he works for the government, but he doesn't really work for the government. He wasn't appointed, he wasn't elected, but I guess he was appointed, but not Trump's view. So, if someone does not agree with him even a teensy tiny bit, then you're pretty much just persona non grata with him, and he feels like, you know this is Trump Inc. or Trump University, I should say, where if you are in place and he kind of gave you a hand there, then it means that you are going to support him 10,000%. So, does there really have to be a reason? But I will say, I'm kind of surprised because in previous cases, they have been shown to kind of toe the line, including Chief Justice Roberts. So, could there be dissent in SCOTUS? About time after you've already given the man immunity. But, what do y'all think?
All right. I
I'll tell
don't.
you what. I'll tell you
Yeah.
what. First and foremost, yeah, he's very disappointed in Amy Colbert Barrett because she actually is ruling um, with her interpretation of the law. And so, the two that he's most disappointed with is Kavanaugh and Comey Barrett. His other appointee has been like on the money with him. So, but right now, I think what Trump has done is when he's attacked those lower courts and he has everyone attacking the lower courts and saying that the lower courts don't have a right to issue injunctions and things of that nature, he's pretty much taken away, I believe, the power of the judiciary branch. And so, when he started crossing and towing that line, he lost an ally. Instead of like respecting the court's decisions, um, they gave him immunity, and I think they regret the immunity they gave him because he's using that immunity that they gave him to actually defy them. So that's what I believe. So I want to leave it at that. Amy Coney Barrett and Matt Kavanaugh are, I'm being honest with you. I didn't like either one of them, but they're turning out. Especially Matt Kavanaugh and Amy. They're trying to be fair, and of course I don't like all their decisions because they're conservative judges, but they're trying to be fair. And I didn't never thought I was gonna like Kavanaugh at all. I never thought I was gonna like Kavanaugh, but he's trying to be fair. I learned that.
Being is that not the job of a judge? So would you now say that those were good appointees because they are being fair and looking at it
Yeah,
from a
yeah, Yeah, exactly. Well, they're in there, and so you're right. But what I would have to say is, when you look at Clarence Thomas is not fair. I mean, I Clarence Thomas make Justice Scalia look like a liberal. So that's where I'm at with that. Clarence Thomas makes Scalia looks like he's a liberal. I land with that.
When Clarence Thomas was selected, I don't remember the year, but it was a long time ago. What do you recall, like, when the pivot changed with him, where people generally or a lot would go against him or not? Like, he's always the one that's brought up. I don't recall.
Clarence Thomas came in with the sexual harassment case. He brought sexual harassment to light uh, with wow, I can't remember her name. Wow, Anita Hill. Okay, and so George H.W. Bush appointed Clarence Thomas, and it was horrible. And I think Biden sat on that committee, and Clarence Thomas, you know, some say Bork, the Bork thing because Bork couldn't get through. But I think Clarence Thomas changed everything when it came to Supreme Court appointees. A lot of people want to say that the Bork hearings did, but I think Clarence Thomas did more so. With that, I land.
Right. And I think recently, Jonathan, Clarence Thomas has really shown his butt, so to speak, right? From Jenny Thomas, his wife, actively agreeing with the insurrectionist and nothing happened. And then, of course, he was found taking all of those. Well, I'm not going to say they were bribes, but they were pretty much some very expensive, nice trips on some yachts and so forth and so on. And do you guys remember when Trump was in office, he literally had um, Clarence Thomas perform like some sort of ceremony? Was it like bringing a immigrant in or something like giving someone the almost the like seemed like the rites of passage to become an American citizen. Does anybody remember that with that messed up rose garden that Melania had destroyed? So yeah, he's been getting the side eye from me for quite a long time, right? I think that Katanji has been eating them up, especially with her dissents and how she's been communicating that. Chief Justice John Roberts has actually surprised me a little bit as well. But I will agree with you, Jonathan, that it's Kavanaugh that seems to, have gotten away from the drunk frat boy image and really, really been a surprise on the Supreme Court, right? I mean, they still gave him immunity. So still looking at all of them with the side eye, well, except the ones that didn't vote for it. But we're going to be stuck with the Supreme Court for quite some time. And Trump is probably going to make some additional appointments if he ends up, these 4 years. So SCOTUS is going to be extremely, extremely just a priority for them to pretty much just hold steady that course. But we have to imagine, Jonathan, for some of them with kind of the pushback, there are some crazy people out there that support this administration, right? That people's houses are getting blown up. They're murderizing people, like and yes, I said murderizing. I would hope that they have some kind of like some security because I may not agree with them, but I absolutely do not agree that any person in private or public office, especially the judiciary, should be targeted just because you don't agree with them, right? That is not patriotic at all. You've got to respect the process even if you do not respect the person.
Thank you for that, Mickey. That was very insightful. I want to kind of stick with that. The appointees, Trump's history of people not necessarily always working out. It's all perfect in the first month or so. And then for some, they either follow the boss or they don't. My question to you or the stage is A, do you think Trump looks at his presidency as running a business? And if so, if he's the CEO of any business, doesn't he call the shots for his employees? So I would love to hear from some other people on that. Uh, and if nobody chimes in, I'm going to start calling on some of these people at the bottom. I really want to get some new voices in here. So, Carlina and Pasquale, be ready if nobody speaks up. Anybody want to comment on that? Trump's Angela, are you in here? We get some
Scott
people
said
on.
he's gonna call Tyrone. Y'all better start talking, cause I know you don't want to hear me. Okay,
Hmm?
call him.
Tell him,
All
come
right, let's
on, get
let's let's try and keep this under control. Um, I presented a question. We're all adults here and have brains. Ravi, do you think Trump running the country or looking at his job as president as CEO? What are your thoughts on people not working out? Should they do what he says? Is he, I mean, just look at the latest example with Elon. That's where I'm trying to get to. So let's have a conversation about it. Ravi, Angela, Caleb. Come on, guys. We're here every night.
So is it, let me just clarify.
Go
Is
ahead,
the
Alan.
is the question, are there downsides to treating democracy like a business? Because if
Sure.
that's the question, my answer is yes,
Uh,
there
uh,
are. And I'm sure plenty of people in the room have opinions about
Give us an
maybe it's
example.
fine. A lot of Trump supporters think it's fine. Um, well, it's a conflict of interest. I mean, the same thing in a way plays out with, I think, people,
Let
anybody
me
elected
interrupt you because I
for an
want I
office.
want to I want to understand
Mhm.
you. What is a conflict of interest when you're running a presidency like a business?
Well, you could have a business that's a for-profit business. If anything, I think our government should be more like a non-profit type organization when it comes to certain ways of being. But I get it, right? We have to make money, we need to get out of debt. So I can see the value in like balancing the budget, and we got to figure shit out how to generate. We got to maybe make more things and produce more things or consume less. There's a lot of things, right, that would come into play, but my main point is that when it comes to a business, right? If you're a business and your slogan is "We put people first," well, okay, cool, but if they're a successful business, they're often putting the profits before people, right? And it's like big pharma does that. And I'm not saying we need to be a socialist country, but right, there's a lot of other countries where they take the profit out of, and don't make education or healthcare a business in the same way we do. And
Right.
there's upsides to that.
Can I jump in, Scott?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to give someone else a chance. Man, this is first of all, you say his employees. The Supreme Court's not his employees, and the judiciary certainly is his employees. And in terms of a business, the business, the bosses of his business happen to be the populace. So when you guys are saying that, he's running a business, this is not a business. This is government. When you're governing, you're governing for everyone, and you got to look out for the people that are less, I guess, advantaged, and I'm talking about people that are, low income, or whatever. But when you look at what's going on here, you guys are talking about running a business. I don't want Trump running a business. I've seen Trump run businesses. Okay, he's done great with real estate. Real estate, you can't go wrong, especially in New York City. Okay, but Trump Steak, Trump Airlines, Trump Planes, Trump University, Trump Water, Trump Ice, Trump everything else hasn't done as well. And so when you guys say he's running a business, no, I don't want this man running a business. I think he's corrupt the way he runs the business. And matter of fact, he is running a business. He's running the business of the presidency. He's the first person that I've ever seen that have taken the presidency and turned it into a profit-making machine. His family will leave. I tell you what, his family will leave the office. Now you notice I said his family because they're all running the country. They will leave the office as the most wealthiest family in the world. I 100% believe that and know that to be fact because this guy set up a meme coin, a crypto coin, right before he went in office. So the running this as a business, that's the problem. That's the problem. So once again, a lot of you guys are staying on mute tonight. I don't understand why you guys are staying on mute tonight. This is a very ripe topic. Ripe topic. The Supreme Court. and what the question that Scott framed and put out there is a great freaking question that allows you to speak on a variety of things. But you guys are staying on mute. I land.
Thank you, Bing. And for my just clarify to everybody, I was more referring to his cabinet, and I understand Supreme Court's not necessarily his employees, but yeah, sometimes he is definitely looking at it that way. All right. Anybody else have a comment on this before we move on to what I'm trying to get to, which is Elon?
But
How,
but you,
go
you
ahead,
called
Caleb.
me, you called me, and I'm here. Okay,
Yeah, go
this is
ahead.
Caleb. Well, the question you asked, I'm going to give my point on that. I believe, me, Caleb Serafin, I believe if somebody is working in a place, they not working accordingly at the place policy, at the place strategy, they are unhappy with the rules, they should resign. Period. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Well,
I'll chime in before we move on,
go ahead, Mickey.
Scott, because I totally agree with Jonathan. So, yeah, the president is an elected position, and there are literally thousands of other elected positions, and all of them are entrusted with doing what they need to do best for their constituents, meeting the voting electorate, and pretty much for the country. So you have the Fed chair. The Fed is a federal agency, not necessarily part of the government, but we have hundreds of these agencies that all work together to do their job. So a CEO, number one, a CEO, especially if it's a publicly traded company, unless you're talking about a small company like Diddy, and you see where that got him. He's the only one charged with the RICO because no one else was able to tell him, no, we're not going to be threatening to blow stuff up, Diddy, right? Not using business funds anyway. So Donald Trump actually was not a very good CEO. And I keep bringing this up. He made terrible business deals, right? And this is not his country. This is the United States of America. And he really needs to learn to work well with others. He did not have the right to do the tariffs. Now they're pushing back against the courts, which, we have the three branches of government in this country. And this is a model that a lot of other countries try to emulate. I really don't understand why we would need to change that now, right? That's not what anyone voted for. So, as we move on to Elon, Elon is a perfect example. Why would you put the
Hey, Mickey,
wealthiest
can I
person in
pause
the
you right there?
Sure, go ahead.
What was your last sentence before that? What about? Tell me your last sentence before you moved on to Elon.
That we have three branches of government and no one voted for him to do the things that he's doing.
Do you so you don't recall on the campaign trail him talking about tariffs and doing what it takes to fix the budget, the immigration? Like that's what I voted for.
Right, but legally within the parameters that have already been set. What Donald Trump and the Republicans are doing, which I'm actually proud of them, that a few Republicans are actually starting to stand up, just like with the Supreme Court members, and saying, no, you can't do it this way, right? The government is not a puzzle that you can work out 5 or 10 different ways and it's going to achieve a result. When you ignore not only the political norms, the ethical norms, the standard norms, right? The rules of engagement, all of these things. What it does is it breaks down systems that some of them have literally taken centuries to build and put in place, right? So just like in business, a lot of people know what a Chinese wall is. It means if I'm in the same room with you, Scott, and let's just say we have a similar client, but you're taking care of the real estate investments and I'm taking care of the brokerage investments, and maybe sometimes I don't want the client to have as many real estate investments because then they would have more cash for brokerage, right? I still have to ignore that even though it's in plain sight in front of me and I can peek at your computer when you go to lunch, so to speak, right? That's a terrible example, y'all, but work with me. So no, he was not elected to do any of this the way that he's accomplishing it. No legislation has been passed. He's bending corners. He's making all of these people, including the federal government, spend all kinds of money. No one thought that Elon Musk would have the power that he did. Elon Musk has been able to download every single American's information and even some that have died because, yes, everyone is in the Social Security system. It does not mean they were getting a check. And that is extremely dangerous when you have someone who who is a head of a corporation versus a head of state. And quite frankly, he did not know what he was doing, which is why we lost so many good people who were just servants of this country. Now, I'm an investor, so I love a good captain of industry. But you know who I really admire more? A servant of this country. So I disagree. Was he elected to accomplish certain things? But no one thought that he was going to dismantle government, which is why his ratings are in the tank, right? He's going about it the wrong way. Contrary to popular belief, Donald Trump, you don't know everything. Back to you.
All right.
Well, I'll
Yeah, go
even
ahead.
push back for you. I'll even push back for you, Barth, because she used to absolute and said nobody. And I do think that there are people that voted for Trump, probably like Barth, because he represented anti-establishment in general.
And
Yeah.
that's fine to represent anti-establishment, but
Well, that
tr-
means tear it up.
no, and tear it up. But okay, let's figure out the impact of tearing it up because I take exception to that. When you tear up something, you're gonna hurt people, and when you're the president, you're trusted to protect the people. So not only has he been using these businesses to gain his presidency to gain from businesses, whether it be accepting a $400 million jet from Abu Dhabi, I mean, at what cost? Benefiting from his properties, the cryptocurrency, and then throwing in tariffs and telling his cronies, oh, today's a good day to invest. I'm sorry, but you can't tell a CEO of an organization how to run their business and then throw tariffs and then impact the American worker and then create chaos out in the marketplace and then turn around and profit from it at the same point in time for your own gain and benefit. I'm sorry, but I'm just not seeing how this is adding up. And I know that y'all voted for this, but you didn't vote it for it to be run that way. There was no insight or signal whatsoever that came into the marketplace to say, hey, this is how we're going to do it. No, this has been absolute chaos. It has thrown the world markets upside down. We have no clue what's going on, and we're looking over our shoulder because everybody's stressed about what he's going to do next. And I land with that.
Are you already
Well, for the
51? You keep saying we.
for the
Let me ask you.
record,
Yeah, we
that
because
was
we're
well
North
said.
Americans. We're
Hold on,
North
Allie.
Americans,
Let me
buddy. I'm going
follow
to
up with.
position it that
Let me
way.
follow up with you on that theory. So you obviously follow American politics and economy. I mean, you're we in it. Do you recall a president that ever came in and started shaking up things like he said he was going to do, or made any significant changes to try and fix the economy other than some sort of tax bill?
Well, let me give you an example here. Um, Most presidents that come in don't fully reveal their agenda in the way that they're going to execute it, but there is some level of care in how they how they approach it. Trump has been nothing but disruptive, and that is not what the people voted for.
Well, I disagree. I'm kind
You
of on the
wanted
side
that
of.
disruption. This is what you
Let me
wanted
ask
the
you.
organizations to
I don't
be.
think you really answered the question of who's the last person that came in. Because my question to you is, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over. This
Yeah,
country,
but
hold on, Allie. This country only goes down in debt or more in debt. We haven't had anything close to a balanced budget in many years. Something's got to change somewhere. Some money's got to come from it. And so, I mean, anyhow, that's my opinion. I want to try and keep that to a limited.
And
Anybody,
that's
go
fair.
ahead, Terry.
And
Yeah,
if I can retort to that, I
yeah.
mean,
Go ahead and
listen,
retort.
no, no, listen. You know what? If I want to win a game, I need to have a plan. I can't basically go into a football game and start throwing interceptions left and right and basically think I'm going to basically win the game. That's exactly what's taking place right now with this administration. They're just trying to throw things at the wall, trying to see what sticks. And that is just not a way that you strategically go about making change. It comes across as uneducated and not well thought out. That's not how you play chess, Bart. And any person that knows how to play chess knows that there's a process, a calculation. So if you want to disrupt things, absolutely have some plan, have some consistency. But shaking up the market and then telling your cronies, "Oh, today's going to be a good day to make money,"
it doesn't really seem like it lines up with lining up your country folks' pockets in as much as it's lining up your pockets, and that's what I land with.
When you say cronies, are you saying Americans? Because he told everybody that.
Well, yeah, what on his X channel, and then he's shaking hands in his
We can move
Oval
on from
Office.
that. But
Yeah, like, come on, that's not the best way to do things. You can't look at me and basically say honestly that this has been a well thought out, executed plan. It's been chaotic. Has it been not chaotic?
do you think that the last 4 years before he got in, with his mind feeling that the election was stolen, you don't think every day he was thinking on different stuff he could do, and you think he's just really throwing shit at the wall?
I think he's being chaotic. I think he's disturbing the market. I mean, even CEOs are going, listen, I don't think that this is a good idea how you're approaching this. You have to have a plan. If you're going to institute tariffs and do it genuinely, you can't throw the market in a sense to where the small business owners are going to suffer because all of a sudden there's 200% tariffs in China because you escalated a trade war where you could just have basically done so gradually over time to give businesses time to adjust over a 6 month period. This just to bring the people to the negotiating tables. I haven't seen any deals being made, and now he's basically being slapped by the courts to say, hey, look, the tariffs are illegal. I'm not exactly sure what the status of this is, but there's nothing that is passed legislation in this approach. And it's just combative.
Would you
Scott,
Storm, are
agree?
you there? Hold
Bart,
on now.
and
Allie,
also
one second. Go ahead.
Scott,
Go ahead, Mariana.
Bart, stop saying the election was stolen because it wasn't.
Well, if you heard
Trump
me
lost
correct,
in
if you heard me
2020. Okay.
correctly, I said in his mind
Oh, okay,
for
in
the
his
last
mind.
four
Okay.
years. Storm, let
Okay.
me ask you a question. Are you there?
Scott,
Or was there somebody else want to chime in?
yes, Scott, this is Jude speaking. I think you raised a very interesting question about Trump's approach to governance and the implication that this man engages in transactional form of governance troubles me. And it troubles me more so because when you watch his antecedents, and like Jonathan pointed out, some of the companies that he ran to the ground wasn't that those industries weren't profitable, but they basically were run to the ground because directly linked to his personality and his styles of governance. Um, Government is not uh, supposed to be approached with a profit mindset because it's not every branches of government that produces income. Like your military doesn't make money, but they spend money. So there are some other aspects of government. You need somebody that has the same mind to be able to balance the social aspect of the social need of the country as opposed to the profitable needs of the country. It has to be a balance. But one thing that troubles me about this administration is I can't figure out who is in charge. I have watched Trump write his executive orders, and each and every one, you get the impression that it did not originate from him, that he was just being advised, that people came up with those ideas, and then he just put his signatures on them. And then later asked the questions, like we just heard reportedly asked the other day, was Dodge actually a bull crap? You see somebody that approach issues with some kind of rigor, imperial um, attitude that kind of acquiesces something that he feels that sounds nice. The people that he surrounds himself are not vetted. They are not experts in the fields that he puts them. You see somebody that is impulsive in decision making and in action. I mean, that makes me ask, The same questions that people used to ask when Joe Biden was in power. Who is actually running our government? I land with that.
Huh. I see what you did there. Storm, you there?
I just couldn't believe what I just heard, though. You might want to come back to me before I piss people off.
I've heard
And
a
you know
few.
what? I'm going to go ahead and say it.
Well, I was going to ask
Let's
you a
just
couple
go ahead and shake
questions,
up the room for a second.
Storm.
Before you ask my question, Sir Jude, it's very clear who's running our country because you complain about him every single night on the decisions that he makes. And yes, his people around him are vetted. Pam Bondi has a record. Marco Rubio has a record. You go look at the people he put in his cabinet, they're some of the most vetted people, and he's been thinking about it for probably close to 5 years. So this is not like, Biden, where when Trump and Biden had an election, Biden had to fill a cabinet. He had people who he had in mind too. Trump knew he was probably going to win. So he was thinking about this. And for those of you guys who don't think he had a plan, he's been planning this revenge for a very long time because you know what? You have to be a disruptor. You have to be unpredictable. When things are going downhill, you have to shake things up. If you've got a company that's bleeding and a company that's about to go bankrupt, what you need to do is you need to clean house and you need to make decisions based on not pro quo or status quo. You've got to make sure and have these things in place. I love the fact that he shook up the market. If you guys think that, you know what, Trump made his cronies rich, keep in mind, Pelosi still has the best track record ever in the history of our country, that she's made 68% returns consistently. And you're telling me that Trump and his cronies are making money in the market? Last time I checked, Nancy Pelosi's a Democrat, not a Republican. Scott, what was your question?
Yeah. Um, you're hearing a lot about, he hasn't done anything, these tariffs, others haven't accomplished anything. I'm going to ask Sir Jude in a second, Storm. I'm going to ask him the question. Do you think that if these tariffs did not go into place, that the trillions of dollars of business commitments that have come in just within the past 2 or 3 months would have happened? What do you think his answer is going to be, and how is he going to spin that, Storm?
He's going to say, well, the tariffs were bad. Here's the deal: without the tariffs, we don't get those investments. Without the tariffs, we don't earn the respect of other countries coming to the table. I can't believe I heard somebody that they didn't see any deals coming to the table. Of course, you're not going to hear it if you don't want to see it. But yes, there are countries who are. There are deals who are being made. And there's countries who are bringing trillions of dollars back into the United States. And if you look at who's in power, and if you look at the unpredictability of what you're looking at of what Trump has brought, that's exactly why we have those investments. I have no idea what Sir Jude is going to say, though.
When you say
Let's see.
there are deals being made, don't just say that loosely. Tell us these deals that are being made that you're so sure
Go look it up, AR.
Well, I can
See,
give
I
him
knew
a
you was going to do
couple.
that.
Hold
I
on,
knew you was going to do
I won't make you use your sausage fingers to type. Do you not recall all the major corporations such as Apple, such as what's the AI one? That's the one I was trying to think of. Help me out,
Wait,
Storm.
how much has Qatar
NVIDIA.
brought to the table?
Nvidia.
Then
that. No,
I'm
regarding
sorry.
the tariffs.
How much has
Regarding the
Qatar AR brought
tariffs.
to the table to the United States
Well,
besides a
AI.
plane?
Well, AI. Let me explain because why in regards to the tariffs. Do you think those major companies, and I can get to the Grok machine and give you all of them, but I think you've watched the news enough to hear of the many that are going to start building, which creates
Anything now,
jobs.
bro. Anything.
Hold on, I'm almost there. Which they will start building factories, which will put a lot of people to work, which will also put people to work. Do you think those would have happened without the tariffs? That is
Yes.
a
What are the
okay.
deals, bro? What are the
Those are
deals?
additional
Well,
Don't
hold on. I
move.
deals.
want to know
Don't
AR.
move the bar.
AR, do you think those would have happened?
What are the deals? I'm waiting.
For what, the countries or the different companies in
Yeah,
there?
you said he's making the deals with the different
Yeah.
countries.
Did you not see the Qatar $2 trillion deal? Did you
Oh,
see the
oh,
Boeing
okay.
deal
Oh,
that
the
he
ones
brought
that
from?
put money in his pocket.
Hang
My
on. Are
fault.
you interrupting me? Because you just asked me a question. Did you not see the Boeing deal that they got from Qatar?
I thought you asked me a question, but Yes,
No,
I
I
did see
did,
that.
and now,
Yeah,
yeah, I'd love for you to answer.
right. Yes, yes, I saw that Bowen deal for that benefits him. Yes.
No, 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 no. How much was the Boeing deal that Qatar invested into Boeing? Do you know?
No, I don't.
$1.9 trillion. 210 787 Dreamliners.
I'm asking about the tariff deals.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, explain that.
You're not
Explain how that.
understanding what a tariff is?
Explain how that relates to the tariffs put on countries.
It's simple. When you put a sweeping tariff across the world and Qatar says, hey, I tell you what, why don't we knock down those tariffs and why don't I give you $2 trillion in investments in an American company instead? Okay, great idea.
That's actually not what happened, Storm. Those are not tariff deals. The tariff deal would mean renegotiating the tariffs because remember, tariffs are a two-way street. We have tariffs on other countries and other countries have tariffs on us. What I do want to point out though, even though this was very fascinating, fellas, is that those are additional investments. Is anyone aware of an entirely new country, an entirely new company making investments in the United States versus, let's just say, they were going to go to India and because of Donald Trump or the tariffs or whatever you want to attribute to, because he's just so magical and wonderful, that they said, no, we're going to pull funds from this other country and we are going to invest them in the United States. Has that occurred?
Well, Mickey,
Right.
before you go to this, I'm trying to answer ARs because we went off tangent here.
But it's the
Um,
same question. She just
what did
asked about.
Saudi Arabia? Well, what did Saudi Arabia invest in the United States after Trump went over there?
I mean, Saudi Arabia also did a deal with Jared Kushner after Trump was out of office, so that could also be attributed to Saudi Arabia making investments in American investors.
Of course, you
So
could speculate that, but that's
I'm
four
not,
and a
I'm
half
not,
years later.
sir, I'm not speculating that actually happened. You are aware that Saudi Arabia also has what is the Gulf endeavor? So you are aware that these countries actually already do invest in the United
Of
States and
course
United
they do.
States businesses?
You just said it. They're additional
Well,
investments.
right. Okay. You wanted someone not to interrupt you. I'm going to ask for the same from you.
You just asked me a question and I answered it.
Okay, well,
But that's what I did.
look at here, Joe. So the point that I'm trying to make, Storm, is you made a claim to something, whereas AR was absolutely correct. He said, name a tariff deal. You did not name a tariff deal. But I'll go back on mute, or someone can go to Grok and ask, was this directly due to tariffs? And like I said, not additional deals for existing investments, or were these brand new things that can be completely attributed to Donald Trump? I already know the answer, but I'm going to wait for you to make that determination.
Perfect. And you're exactly right. The tariffs are a direct impact as new additional investments, and that's what you guys don't see. Because you're never going to see it say, because of the tariffs, we're going to rewrite this deal. That's what you guys don't understand. So, Mickey, I think that you're probably pretty intelligent in the wealth world and financial world. And if you look at the world economics and politics, there were not companies that were making this kind of investments in the United States in 2021 to 2024. Yes, they were making investments, not of this size, not of this magnitude, not with our previous president. So, yes, I directly attribute, and so do other experts and economists, attribute these direct investments and these additional investments because of tariff threats, not
So
because
your
of
position
tariffs,
is.
but
So your
because of
position.
tariff threats and its posturing. And that's what you guys don't understand is the world of business. You can understand the world of politics, but Trump understands both. And that's the first time we've ever had a president who's done that.
So that's absolutely not true because are you not aware that, for example, I won't even tell you the president because it doesn't matter. And here's the problem that I actually mentioned earlier, guys. People seem to think that Donald Trump is just the be all and the everything all, that nothing else has ever existed in the history world, right? Is Donald Trump not an example himself of a private citizen that has done business with other countries for decades? Yes or no? He even used a non-American bank after he was no longer able to work with American banks, which is Deutsche Bank. That is not an American bank. So, was Donald Trump himself as a private citizen able to, right, engage in business overseas? So, do you see how that works? It does not always have to be the government because you don't negotiate with the government. Just because a president has a press conference and says, oh, I had a conversation with this CEO, as if number one, everyone in the world wants to do business with America. Why? Does anybody want to say why? Maybe because we're the largest consumer group in existence. Oh, I don't know. Maybe because we have the largest stock market in the world. Oh, I don't know. Maybe because we have the largest GDP in the world. The fact of the matter, Storm, because guess what? Business, commerce, politics, the economy, all of those things go together. And if you were going to quote the experts, I would love for you to quote what they tell me about what tariffs are doing to the economy and inflation, right? There were literally articles today that showed how Donald Trump's tariffs, international trade war, is literally slowing down global commerce. Do you know what that means? These countries are not going to have the additional dollars to put to work in the United States because they're probably going to help their own citizens because the United States is that powerful that when you put tariffs or a penalty on everything, things can come to a halt. And of course, there were not major investments happening during Biden's administration. Are you forgetting something called COVID when the entire world shut down for 2 years? Now, I'm going to hush because this is my favorite topic and I can really go there. But anywho, shout out to Trump supporters thinking that no international bodies of government or businesses ever put significant sums of money into the United States. What is Sony? Has anybody ever heard of Sony? Oh, no, Sony didn't exist, right? Toyota. What about Toyota? Oh, did Toyota actually put a plant in San Antonio decades ago? Oh, well, must not have because Donald Trump wasn't in office and Donald Trump is the only American president. Newsflash Storm, the only person that you should be comparing Donald Trump to is literally not another person. It should be all American presidents. It's not just Biden. Okay? Back to you, Stormy Scott,
Scott,
whatever.
I'm gonna toss this to Scott. I really appreciate Miki proving my point that guess what? The reason why these other countries came to the table because it was Donald Trump, because he's a businessman, because he's done private business, because he's successful, and because you know what? He's proven to grow companies and wealth. So if it was Biden, they probably wouldn't have come to the table. If it was any other president, they wouldn't come to the table. The Saudi prince never greeted anyone else but Donald Trump when he came to his country. Point proven. Back to you, Scott.
And Trump got away with a $400,000 plane, 4 million, $400 million plane. Was that commission for brokering or dealing with Boeing? This spews of ethics. And one of the things that's not being mentioned here is that these tariffs and the chaos that that created also had a ripple effect to where investments moved away from the United States. Countries were looking at the United States and saying this is no longer a viable or stable economy on which there is certainty. It has lost its cachet and its allure in that sense because now the market is too unpredictable. Great market, too unpredictable. Can't deal with it. And so if you look at the net benefit and just go through and do a little bit of research, you'll find that it's at a bit of a net loss right now. It's not, there's no massive gains. There's been a lot of job losses as a result of this uncertainty, but
Gary,
no one is talking
Gary,
about that.
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Gary, and I really respectfully and I adore you, but what investors do we lose out of our country?
Well, from our side, north of the border, we we decided not to go forward with purchasing equipment. We decided to go to Australia instead. When you start to accumulate investments or deals that were made with the United States, there's a lot of countries
Oh,
that
you're
came
from
back that were
Canada.
turned off. Yeah, Canada, but I can.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I can pull, if you give me a little bit of time, I can do a little bit of
No, that's
research
all
and
right.
come back to you with some figures. It's not off the top of my head, but there's a lot of countries that decided that, hey, we're going to start trading amongst each other as opposed to trading directly with the states as a result of the uncertainty that the tariffs created and the climate that Trump created as a result. It wasn't all nice and roses like Storm is basically saying. There's two sides to the story. So we should examine both points and be fair in that assessment as opposed to saying, oh, no, it's all roses. No, it's not. There's a lot of people that have lost their jobs as well.
All right. Well, back to my original question. Do you not think that the corporate investments of 2.1 trillion from 60 different major companies, including TSMC, Miki, which is Taiwan, you asked what companies are coming from other places that have never have. You don't think that had anything to do with the strong arm he pressed of the tariffs, of threatening to make Canada 51, of everything he was doing to show power. You don't think corporations stepped in line and said, you know what? We're either going to pay the price big time down the road, or we can start making some investments in America because they know. Leave my opinion out of it. So you're still going to say the tariffs did none of that?
I know for a fact that the tariffs didn't do anything of that, and I'll even give you the example of Donald J. Trump himself. He's actually been fascinated with tariffs for quite some time. He's talked about it when he was a private citizen. But what are the facts of the matter? Even when he was in office, his first term, Donald Trump manufactured the majority of his products where, Scott? In the United States or China?
China.
Yes, he manufactured them in China, despite him telling Americans that we should be America first. Because if you recall, he perpetuated these same ideas during his first administration. They're not new. But what we have found with the tariffs is that it's actually strengthened the commerce of other countries because just as theory just gave that example, right? The belief is that the United States is the only game in town, and we are not the only game in town. So if you're referencing a country like Taiwan, which by the way, there are a lot of American manufacturers that manufacture overseas, right? You can thank
Not
Ronald Reagan
chip.
for that. Absolutely.
Which
Yes.
countries?
You
Good. Yes.
literally all over the
We don't
entire
have the
world.
paper.
What are you
What
talking about?
countries? What countries?
Tesla even manufactures in China. I just said that Donald Trump sold Bibles that were manufactured in China. You guys don't know that just like there are other corporations that that manufacture here in the United States, such as Toyota. In fact, the most American made vehicle, we've talked about this before in this room, guys, it's not even an American vehicle. It's a Honda because your products can be made in certain places, right? Even if you're building a house, does every single facet of that house get manufactured in the United States? Textiles,
Always be.
industries, right? Commodities, wheat. Like the New York Times just put something out that showed all of the different things and the majority that we literally get from other countries. Does anyone know anything that is manufactured entirely 100% in this country, including fabricated, manufactured from minerals that are local and homegrown that we do not import? Anybody?
Let me get
Exactly.
mine.
Jack
Right. What kind of
Daniels.
question
Jack
is that?
Jack Daniels.
That's a
But
great point.
do we manufacture the
Marijuana.
probably marijuana, honestly. That would probably be it. Marijuana.
What
So
about
Yeah,
here's
Jack
all the
Daniels.
crops that are
Jack
grown
Daniels is
here?
I
a hundred
land.
percent.
What about all the crops? I mean, that's just an asking.
Mickey, would
Well,
you like to change that, Mickey?
great question.
No, I wouldn't like to change it.
Why wouldn't you? Do you think that maybe Donald J. Trump, as you call him, is trying to change that?
Why would he
Isn't
try to
that his
change
message?
it? Somebody has a sorry, like a background.
I
Um,
don't hear it. I hear
why would
your
he
background.
why would he try to change it when it's literally benefited him and his family? Like I said, he's operated with non-US banks. Cause see, I'm not I don't
No, no,
look at
no, 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 no. We're not
well,
asking.
okay, let me answer the question because I'm gonna
Well,
answer it.
you did
I
already,
don't look
but we're
no,
not
I
talking about him as a
ma'am,
person,
hold on
right?
one second.
We're
Yes,
talking
because
about
we're
him as the
talking about
president.
business
Right.
people. Donald Trump is president of the United States.
Great.
But
Good.
when he's talking about bringing business to this country, it's either from a corporation or an individual or a country, right? It's not AI, it's not a robot, it's not Jesus, right? So, and he is going to
Oh
be a
boy.
businessman when he leaves office. And actually, his businesses that he has, because he has not removed himself from them, he's still pretty heavily involved in, including his children. As someone said, he has a whole cryptocurrency firm with his children, and he just that is a form of commerce. He is selling a product and people buy it. So the one thing that I wanted to say is when we talk about building and manufacturing in this country, I am not someone as a baby fan of the economy to look at just anything that is performative. So, I mean, are we making investments in education so we can have properly educated Americans to work in these places, right? Are we making sure that it's increasing a standard of living for Americans? Are we making sure that the financing and the funding is going to come from American banks? Are we making sure that Americans are going to benefit? No, what we are doing is selling $5 million golden visas to people all over this world that can afford to be here. We're not trying to make good treaties. We're not trying to have good
15
negotiations.
seconds, please.
Look at here. I'm so sorry that I can't communicate about extensive topics like the economy and tariffs in a 5 second
Not for
soundbite.
5 minutes.
But then again, I'm not Donald Trump, so I can't just tweet something and have Americans believe it just because he told you so. So
All
back
right,
to you.
tweak that mute button. Thank you. All right, let's hear from some new people. I'm dying to hear from some Americans at this point too. Respectfully, theory.
I'm a new people.
Go ahead, new. Yeah, Clubhouse. I apologize. Let's get two or
Okay.
three of y'all over there for a minute. Like
It's all
literally
good.
a minute.
Yeah. Yeah. Economics, I mean, sorry, economics. Different economists out there, they projecting a negative net effect from all this stuff that Trump is doing with this U.S. economy. Economic growth, prices, different industries. This is what people are talking about. They're talking about just overall slower gross domestic product. Just the overall growth is likely going to slow down. Even the Organization of Economic Cooperation, and Development, OECD, they downgraded the U.S. growth forecast, talking about all these rising trade costs driven by these tariffs. They're talking about just the overall employment, the investments, the uncertainty the tariffs have created, deterring all kind of firms, households, all kind of investing and hiring and spending. The whole economic activity just being hindered. All kind of job losses as a result of that. We haven't even felt the full effects of that just yet. Just all the higher prices for consumers, because we all know it's a tax on the imported stuff. That's what the tariff is. What the business is going to do? Of course, they're going to pass it down to the consumer. We're all going to pay higher prices. All these major retailers, Target, Home Depot,
Let
Lowe's.
me
This
ask
is
you a question. Well, what's your
what's
name?
Remus.
Reeves. Thanks for coming on the show. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening at home, this is DTN Debate the News. You can be here live every night on Chatter Social. Make sure you download it at your Apple Store or Google Play. Remus, let me ask you a question. Do
Mm-hmm.
you think there would have been $2.3 trillion of investment commitments from major corporations who, if they were lying, that would obviously be lying to their shareholders? Do you think that would have happened if Kamala Harris was in president or won the presidency?
It's impossible for me to forecast what would have happened now.
Okay, all right. Then that's what I wanted you to say. Do you think that would have happened if these tariffs weren't imposed?
Absolutely. You know why, Barn?
Why?
Because you'll realize that him going over there to Qatar and talking to them and golf courses and getting a plane from Qatar to Saudi had absolutely nothing to do with him doing that stupid stuff with the tariffs. That was a totally unrelated event. He could have did that without doing the stupid stuff with the tariffs.
All right. So you're trying to say that the 1.2 trillion
Mm-hmm.
that Qatar is investing, which is half. Let's go with the other half. Do you think that over $1 trillion from companies like Stargate, OpenAI, Apple, TSMC, Nvidia, Hyundai, and more, over 60 companies, did the
Mm-hmm.
tariffs make them make the decision to make those commitments? Yes or no?
No, absolutely not. It had nothing to do with the tariffs. If anything, it made his position worse, because it just created unnecessary uncertainty.
So you
He
don't.
could, he
Okay,
could have
then
flexed
let
that
me ask you a
same
question,
muscle.
Remus. Let me
He
ask you a
could have
question.
flexed
What
that.
is the
Hold on.
point?
Let me finish answering
All
that.
right, go ahead. I
He could have
apologize.
flexed that same American muscle that Donald Trump knows America has muscle all over the world. He could have flexed that without doing this emotional nonsense with China and now, and almost, what it felt like, Bart, that he was still like in a PTSD from all that warring with Biden. And now all of a sudden he's president and he's still, well, these immigrants, and he just kind of like lost his mind and just started, well, I'm gonna tax everybody. And like, bro, we already know America's strong. You don't need to flex like that. It's not
Remus,
happening.
is this happening all just a shock to you? Did you not
What?
hear him on the campaign trail making these same things and why 74 million people voted for him?
It's a shock to Donald Trump. He didn't know he was going to do this craziness. I
And
promise
when
you.
you say flex muscle as Americans and other stuff, besides
No,
monetary,
Donald
which in
Trump
my
flex.
opinion is the
Donald
biggest
Trump
flex.
flex. I said Donald Trump flexing, not
No,
America
what
flexing.
when you said what he should have flexed America's muscles other
I
than
didn't say that. I said he could have flexed America's muscle
how?
without doing this tariff
I
stuff.
need an example of
Same
that.
exact thing in the Middle East. Example, what he did in the Middle East. He could have did every exact thing he did, since you're bragging on this trillions of dollars of money that's coming to America down the road here because of these contracts with Boeing and whoever else, whatever. So he could have did that without doing what he did to that's still having an effect on all of us within in LA and all across America and China and all kind of, he didn't have to do that and got Europe looking at us,
Right.
got everybody else cutting deals with themselves more so.
Right.
You
Last question. We'll move to somebody else. What
know?
is the point of a tariff? When
To-
some what do you
Okay, great question.
what is somebody a president? What is he
Great
trying to
question, bro.
accomplish?
Great question. Great question. Taking me back to my economic, micro and macroeconomic class 30 years ago at Chaminade University. The point of a tariff is to try to regulate. There's a couple of points that why you would use a tariff. Number one, you want to get a homegrown industry going. Would be one way to utilize a tariff, so that you would actually disincentivize that particular industry. Let's just say for example, cars. You would put a tariff, say, hey man, we don't want you over here because we're building up cars right now. We don't want to just rely on you. We don't want to be dependent on you. So we want to go ahead and build our own cars over here. So the idea ultimately of a tariff is you're causing the price to have to go up on whoever, whatever you tariff. So in this case, China. If I'm going to tariff China 145%, what I'm saying is any goods that you decide to come in here, they're going to be 145% more price to get that product in here. So the person that's going to bring that product in, let's say I want to sell all these shoes that I'm bringing in from China. Now I either got so much money that I'm going to say, I don't care. I'm just going to swallow that cost. I'm going to keep charging the $5, $10, $50, whatever I was charging before that, I'm gonna keep charging that to the consumers. That is not what we're watching happen. What we're watching happen is the people that are buying these products coming them into America. That's what has to happen. Somebody has to buy that stuff to get it up in here. So they pay that extra money, and now they're saying, "Well, hey, sorry, Bob. I know you used to paying $10 for these shoes, but they're gonna have to be, $25 now.
Right.
Hey, man,
So
the cost of me getting the goods went up."
right. So
Scott,
hold on, because I think hold on, St. Jude, please, please. I want to get this. I'm working hard to get where I'm almost there.
You almost there.
Your example of
Uh-huh.
the tariff, the goal of a tariff is to create what jobs and make the people have to
Well, it's a tool. It's a strategy.
right. So
Something
is
that
would you say? My question now is, would you
hold on, hold
say?
on, bro. You cannot ask me a question
Well,
and let me get half a sentence out as if I answered the
it's a
question, bro.
tool. That's what I needed you to say. But
Listen,
go ahead.
well, I'm just saying, bro. Because then you're
I'm
gonna quote me.
steering this. You're
You're
right
gonna
now. I got
quote
the
me
puppet
later
strings. You're
on
going right
something
where I
I didn't
want you
even get
to.
a chance to fully expound upon, and that's not cool. So give me the opportunity to, so that then when you quote me later on, then I can stand on what I said. So that's it's a strategy thing when you're talking about economies and you're talking about prices. So there's a lot of different reasons where you could use it. What history will say about Donald Trump, guaranteed, is you miss the total value of using that tool. You used it like you're trying to whoop somebody or something. It's not a tool like that. And all you're doing is hurting your own economy in the process.
So again, my question:
Mhm.
him using tariffs as a tool, which you agree is to create business, manufacturing stuff, more to be done in America, which what creates jobs. It is estimated that the commitments made so far by companies like I listed before will create 500,000 jobs from 60 different companies.
When will this happen? according to your estimation that you're quoting. According to the
A
estimate that you're
lot
quoting,
of some of
when
the
will these
companies
jobs
have
be
already
created?
broke ground.
When will these
So
jobs
there's
be created,
people.
Bart?
I will
When will
tell
these
you.
Yeah.
estimated jobs be
I'm ready to answer you, Remus. You ready? They've already started.
how many?
Companies, hold on,
How
Remus.
many
Let
jobs
me
have
get
already
the
been
full
created?
answer. It's not respectful, all that bullshit you said
How
before.
many jobs have already been created that have already started?
Well, it takes time.
Hold
Listen,
on, St.
Stas.
Jude. Give me
No. It's already started.
how
How
they
many
have
jobs have been
broke
created since
ground.
the tariffs were kicked in, bro? Come on, don't play
Who,
around like this.
who, how do you build something, Remus?
The people are
How do
listening,
you
bro.
build
How
something?
many
Somebody
jobs? I'm
lays
talking to
pipe.
another person, bro. How many? You can't play me like that. How many jobs have been
There's
created because of
construct.
this?
Is somebody being paid by the companies that have already broken
How
ground
many
to do construction?
jobs,
Yes or
bro?
no?
One, two jobs, 10 jobs, 100 jobs. How many jobs
These
have there
are
have been?
huge buildings the
How many
size
have
of.
been created,
You,
bro?
you
How many
guys are
Remus,
talking.
Remus, let him
created
I
respond.
jobs?
mean,
Hold
stop
on.
going
You
back and
guys
forth
are
with this.
talking over each other.
Huh?
Listen.
Come on, one at a time,
How
man.
many
You get
Yeah.
jobs
it. Yeah.
created, Bart?
I apologize,
Okay. You
Remus. I
you
can't give you a number, but over the
Oh,
next
okay.
4 years,
All right. Well,
it's
let me know when you
expected to
can
be
give me a
half
number
a million.
so we can have a real
li-
conversation. Let me know.
listen.
All right, go ahead, St. Jude.
Yeah. Listen. The fact of the matter is this: America needs a reset. America needed a reset. It's long overdue. Okay. And I could give Donald Trump some credence from wanting to do a reset, but the dexterity or the lack of it by which he approached the issue, I mean, you could have a reset without so much disruption. Okay, it has been done before. You asked a question about Kamala Harris. Let me give you just one clue here. If you remember the time that Kamala Harris was charged with finding out what's going on, why the immigrants were coming to United States, and what need to be done, she did not only produce a report, but she quietly brought countries and companies together and raised about 5.4 billion US dollars that created over 700,000 jobs that will keep people in Mexico rather than coming here. And the reason why you ask that question is because you probably didn't know about this, and it was done quietly. American technocrats has been doing things that are very effective. That's why America is as powerful as it is without the brouhaha, without the disruption. Okay. While I give Trump the credit, I will also have to notice that because of his approach, because of his personality and his style, it is very hard to quantify and to understand and balance the net profit or the net gain of what he's doing. Because he's doing something positive, but at the same time, he's using a negative approach and it ends up being counterproductive.
15
That's why
seconds,
we're
please.
having a problem. Not that the man didn't do anything right, but his approach ends up shooting himself on the foot, and America ends up getting the short end of the stick. I land.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Debate the News. You are listening live if you're in the audience here, obviously, but at home on the podcast. We ask that tell a few friends about it. Then go to Chatter Social on the App Store, Google Play, download it, and become part of this conversation. And right now, I want to hear from some new people. I'm going to either call on Tim with the fancy gray sports coat or Candace, who this whole time I thought was another Candace. I want to know both of y'all's opinions on the tariffs and if Trump is accomplishing his goal of creating jobs in the United States. Tim, we're going to go ladies first, obviously, on this. So, Candace, what are your thoughts? Tim? Hmm. All right. I tried something that didn't work. We'll have to come back to that. But again, we want to hear from everybody in the audience. Please, please, please speak up. So, I almost said Shmiki. That would have been bad. Miki, Do you want to pivot us to another topic? Do we want to keep going? Does anybody else have something they want to say on this? Otherwise, I'd like to get into Elon's surprise tweet I woke up to this morning, or I guess it came out of
Yeah. We can pivot to Elon. This will be my last contribution because I'm a good old patriotic American feminine woman, and the children in the OK Corral have told me that mommy gets a little loud on social audio, but you guys can come on over to Chatter at any time and chime in directly. We love to debate the news, so I'm not surprised that Elon has Twitter fingers and he's not happy with Trump. The girls are fighting. I guess all of those hundreds of millions of dollars. Speaking of an investment into this country, I guess Elon should have written a few more checks there and maybe he wouldn't have gotten kicked out of the White House. But we all saw him high as a dingbat, eyes rolling in the back of his head. But hey, it's the Trump administration, and clearly the best is always what we have in place. Who cares if you're drugged out of your mind as long as you're the richest man in the world? And to most Americans, I guess, not to most Americans, to some Americans, if you have a lot of money, that means that you're really, really, really smart, right? So yeah,
Let me ask you a
how
question.
about it?
You say kicked out. I, I could have swore that press conference was on the exact day he was supposed to be done with the patriotic thing he did.
Nope, he was supposed to save the country all sorts of trillions of dollars and
Is the snowball
patriotic.
rolling down the hill? Was there stuff he found that
No,
should not been spent? No.
there was
Okay.
no fraud that was found. Some of his
Was
people.
there funds being
Well,
spent
now you got
that
to
you
let me finish
disagree?
my
Well, because
thought, darling.
I asked the question
You got to
wrong.
let me finish my
Well,
thought
you don't have to
now.
answer that thought because it's the wrong question. My question to
But you know
you
what? I'm
is
gonna go
go
on
ahead.
mute, and you can overspeak yourself. How
Well,
about
go
that?
ahead. It's not the
Bye
question.
bye. Good night, everybody.
That was awesome. How did I do that? I got to write that down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. We have a little fun here every now and then. So, Diana, are you there? I would love to hear from Diana or Angela. That'll really piss them off, and we can get a little spicy now. The street lights are on because the Canadians are asleep.
No, Canadians are wide awake, and just from a process standpoint, Mr. Scott, if anyone's new that wants to speak and
Process, by the way.
contribute,
Process.
there's a raise your hand option on the app, and we'll get to you. We look forward to hearing from you and getting you involved into the conversation or bring up a new topic, and I'll land with that.
51. You keep saying we. So
Yeah,
I
yeah. Well,
think you're running for
it's because
governor.
I went to high school in the states, so I kind of
Oh,
have that
you,
dual thing
what did
going.
you do?
So
Like a foreign exchange for 2 months? How long were you in high school in the United States?
14 years in the United States,
And
coaching
you
a Creek
still
high
can't
scale
say
school
process
trooper,
right?
and I still can't say what right.
Process.
Well,
It's
listen,
not process.
let's not get into a Mississippi versus Canada
Well, I can
accent
tell you one thing, it's not
differentiation here.
process. All
But
right. Thanks,
yeah,
Leary.
let's get some hands raised here.
Yeah,
All
well,
right.
I'm still waiting to hear what the tweet was, actually.
All right. Let me get to that real quick. So this morning, Elon tweeted, let me pull it up. I just had it. He said, shit, hold on. Said something, I don't, I have it word for word, but it was something along the lines of the spending bill, the big beautiful bill is an abomination, and any congressman that voted for it should be ashamed. It was like pretty much left field. I even looked to make sure it was like his verified account. I didn't see that coming.
Oh,
It's not like the big beautiful bill just appeared.
yeah. Well, what happened is the bill itself takes out the money that he gets. No, the incentives that the government pays to people that use his vehicles. Something to that effect. So, the write offs that the Americans get for using green energy or whatever you want to call it, is taken, it has been taken, and of course that directly affects Elon Musk's pocket. And of course, when you affect his pocket, he'll go against anyone. He's just like Trump.
Well, AR, you're bringing up the second great choice of Mr. Trump and proving his integrity. I
Here, let
mean,
me read
would
the
he
quote
hold
exactly here.
on, Theory? You just said that he put all this stuff in the bill that was going to hurt Elon's pocket. I thought Trump was like making money and doing stuff for Elon to, he's going to get. What happened to that? So
Trump
there
has
again,
no
it goes
idea
Mr.
what's in that
Trump
bill.
showing his integrity
Wh-
and how
wh-
he's saving this country. But go ahead, AR.
Trump has no idea what's in that bill. He's talking to the Senate.
Right.
Let me jump in here. I mean,
Go ahead,
has,
Johnny.
Elon has always advocated for ending the tax refund, the tax, the $7,500 from that the government gives when you buy an EV. He's always advocating to end that program. So when you say that Mike Johnson saying, "Oh, he's getting that is taken away from him from people," no, he was always advocating for ending that. And I could put quotes from him saying that from way back when, from years ago. Like, come on, guys. And I land there.
I agree with you. I
Right? Do you want me
actually
to?
go ahead.
I was going to say, do you want me to read the quote exactly? I've got it
Yeah,
here. Of
Theory.
course.
Yeah, do that.
Okay.
If
All
the
right.
word
So,
has process, make sure you say it right though.
how should I say it?
It's process, not process. So if the tweet has that word, let's try and say it right. Go
Well,
ahead.
I'm a pro, so I can't help it. I'm sorry. Okay, so this is what he says. I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it. And that was his quote. Sorry for the acting here. Got a little carried away.
No, I love Canadian acting. It's fascinating.
I think
Um,
Jim Carrey.
all right, let's get some women. I want to hear some ladies' voices. What are we thinking about this tweet, Angela? Diane, did you guys? Is Elon got to have some help here, please?
Diana, my name is Diana. Hola, Scott. How are
Diane,
you?
mi amore.
Listen,
Vámonos.
I did the same thing you did. I thought it was a troll tweet. I thought it was fake. I thought it was one of those AI things, but it was not. It was Elon. And listen, shout out to Elon because if he's right and he's calling it out, well, then that's a good thing, no? I'm torn and equally like is a stretch at this point, but rooting for Trump and Elon, both of them. I think both of them are doing big, beautiful, great things, even though it feels incredibly horrible for some people. The biggest hit for me is immigration. I think that seeing the way that people are having to reshape their reality is hurtful once we remove the politics behind it, right? The Job Corps situation that we talked about last night, that was also very heartbreaking to see a lot of those kids. But we did find out that even though Elon is saying there's a lot of bad stuff in there, some people are really excited about the Make America Skilled Again that's in that same big, beautiful bill. I'm curious if anybody has specifics as to what Elon is referring to, because maybe he is this upset due to whatever it is that he doesn't like in the bill maybe it affects him directly. I don't know. Does anybody know? Do you know, Scott? What
I think he is. He's not happy that it's just adding more money and spending to the deficit.
Which is true.
No,
And
And
that's his goal, like, that was his goal the whole time with Doge, and, I'm on the side and I've told Bing about this. Y'all kinda keep your eyes, on a guy named Thomas Massey. He's a senator out of Kentucky, and if you wanna talk about somebody that will do as far as politics, he was so against this bill. It's Republican. Uh,
Ron Paul too.
well, he doesn't really count. His
Why
opinion
not?
hasn't. His opinion hadn't mattered in years. Thomas Massey is but
Yes,
you
sir,
get my
man.
point. There's people that are like, I don't think Elon was happy that more money was going to it. Maybe the whole, hey, you're going to cost me a few bucks, but at what point does, you know, guys,
Well, let me try to word it just a little better than I did last
yeah,
time.
help me out with that.
So, so with spending cuts, with spending bills, you also have to do cuts. And what Elon is upset about is the cuts to the incentives for um, electric cars and all of that stuff that people were getting. Um, as write-offs that you could write off, if you get an electric car and stuff like that. Anything dealing with solar power and electric, those things were cut in order to pay for other things. And that's what he's upset about because it cuts the money that he makes in his industry.
And I'll say,
Once
I'll
again,
call, I'll call false on that. He has been advocating for those cuts from the EV field for years, way before Trump. What are you talking about?
what is who talking about? Me?
He's talking to you,
Yeah,
AR.
he
Oh,
has been advocating for those cuts to get rid of them from
Elon
buying an
has been?
EV. Yes, he has.
So then I don't know why CNN said that because that's where I got that from.
Oh, I'm sorry. But he has been advocating for that for years to get rid of them.
Jotham
Question about the
is.
deficit, Scott. So here's what I don't understand. It seems like having a black card, like one that's you can completely put anything you want on for as long as you want. Only the difference is that you don't ever have to actually pay the bill. So could you explain to me like we have these huge national debts, but do they ever get paid? Are we doing anything about any of them, or do we just kind of keep saying, "Nah, I got you. I'll pay you next Friday"?
They get paid. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but they get paid. We only pay the
No,
interest
Jotham, we owe China like
and we pay
more than.
interest. We pay interest.
I
We're
think
not
we're going to
paying
wait
down the
on
debt.
that.
We're not paying
I've
down the
always
debt, but we're
wondered
paying the interest.
what happened. What would happen if Trump just said, woke up tomorrow, was like, "All right, China, we're going to go back to zero tariffs, but we owe you $0."
He
Like, what
has,
could China do
If
if,
that's the end game, I wouldn't be mad.
like,
but it's
what?
That's what I'm kind of wondering. Do we have to pay that? I mean, if we're at war with somebody, why the hell would we give them money?
let me. You guys understand that when somebody buys our debt, it's tied up into, let's say, your stadium, the house that you live in, is tied up into a lot of things that we wrap together and call them investments, like houses, stadiums, and all these other things. So if we say, "Hey, we're not paying you," and they want their money, what would you do?
Well, that's what I'm saying. What the hell's China going to do? Repo America and be like, yo, come do what you want. We're not paying you. You guys sent the COVID here. God knows how many people you
Economy
killed.
would crash, like totally crash.
Well, how would it
Economy would crash.
crash? If we said, fuck you, China, we ain't paying you a dime of the trillions we owe you. We'll call it
When,
square.
okay, let me ask a
What would
let
China
me ask,
do? Go
when
ahead.
when you have a mortgage and you tell that company, "I'm not paying you another cent,"
Get it, Jotham. What the hell's
your
China going to
credit
do
is
about it?
done. Your credit is done.
Well, I mean,
You're bankrupt. You're done.
Jotham, what the fuck is China going to do about it?
The AAA rating that the United States have will be gone. That's what he's saying.
So,
That
Well,
means
like,
you
does
And
the
how do we
world
have that kind of a rating if we're so in debt? I mean, if I ran up on my credit card,
exactly? That's a great point.
that means instead of your dollar worth to the Chinese dollar, like let's me use Canada. We're actually like a dollar and change to Canada's dollar. If that was to happen, if Trump was to say, "Let's bankrupt the country so that we don't owe anybody," then our dollar would look like the one of them African dollars to the US dollar, like 0.00001 to one Canadian dollar. What are you talking about?
We were on the show.
Regardless.
We're going to tell China, F you, China.
Okay, all right, boy.
Killed a bunch of people with corona. We're not paying you. That's what
Okay,
I would do.
that's left field. That's way left field, or
Uh-huh.
even way right field. Let's get back to topic.
Well, Scott may know
Something
these things, and
substantive.
it might seem silly to you because this is a field that you're familiar with, but I'm not. I'm an actor. I can tell you everything in the world about theater, about movies, whatnot. I don't know these things, and the reason I ask is because I'm not the only one, and I assume
No,
that there's other
I
people
don't think he
listening who
was saying
definitely don't
that.
know and need the answer. So please don't be condescending to me because I'm asking genuinely, truly, because I want to know these things.
Oh,
So
ignore John Hamm.
just picture yourself not paying your debts. What will happen to you? It's the same thing will happen to the country. Everybody will stop doing business with you, and then that means your dollar will fall to nothing. The country will
And
fall to
that's what I was
nothing.
asking. So thank you very
Right.
much for
You're
explaining it.
welcome.
But John Hamm, you really think other countries won't do business with us because we said "fuck you, China"? Sorry, podcast listeners. I we'll beep that out next time. Like
One
it's like when you like you make a settlement. Like, hey,
one
China,
hundred percent.
you
They
know,
would look at us differently.
tariffs will change down to normal. We're all gonna call it even. You won that poker game. It's time for round two.
We don't want to play poker up
Oh,
here.
come on, Barry.
We don't want to play. We're not
Mm.
trying to play. We had a
Look,
Scott,
great relationship south of the border, and now these games are coming out of nowhere. We're targeted. We're your little brother in essence, and all
that's
of a sudden
right.
you want to basically take us and put us in a net
Correct.
lock, right? And start ruffling our hairs and whatever. And we're like, yeah, you know what? No, we're gonna grow up and we're gonna rely on ourselves more. So you've changed that dynamic, not only with us, but with other countries globally. So there's gonna be some pain on that front down the line because we don't trust what's going on south of the border as much as it was once before. So you've gotten out of that golden age in terms of being that reliable source. And that's the part that many folks don't realize as part of the down rotten effect of creating this chaotic environment. I'll land with that.
All right.
So,
Go ahead. I heard somebody else. That's fantastic.
focus real quick. So,
Oh,
there's a little bit more to take into
spotty
consideration with
chords.
as
Go
well.
ahead. Yeah.
Yo, keep in mind that so many different countries base their currencies on the U.S. dollar that also will impact the decision to not pay a country back. I personally could really happen. I mean, I'd love to see it happen with China is if all we got other countries to also say, you know what, China, we're not paying you back either. When these countries are getting loans, it's usually could be has to do with
Hold on. Let him go a
what's
second.
going in.
He'll come back. Sporty try it again. We lost you for a second.
I was just
All
it's
right,
very
bud. We'll come
hard
back to you. I
to
definitely want to hear
pay something.
what you have to say. I'm going to go ahead and mute you respectfully. All right. That was a new voice, ladies and gentlemen. Love to hear it, see it, all that good stuff. Tim, are you there? I want to talk about that sports coat and the skinny tie decision. I don't know if I can. I do like the handkerchief. Tim, come on, man. You there? Let's see. Learn, speak, show, prove. Well, you got speak in your profile. Hmm. All right. Anybody else want to chime in on
I
China?
know the great
Come
Thai
on,
has entered the
theory. Let's
room as well.
theory. Let's give somebody else maybe a chance to breathe and get the courage up to hit the unmute button. All right. There's a process to this. All right. Anybody have an opinion on if Trump or the United States were to wake up and say, China, we're not going to pay you back? Because I just have a hard time thinking that people like in Canada or other places that depend on us would be like, oh, they're not good for it. We're not going to spend money with them. Does anybody have an opinion on that or disagree with me?
Did anybody believe we was ever going to pay him back?
That's my point. Like, maybe that's his thing. Like, listen, these tariffs can go away. In fact, we can do more business together. How about this? I'll give you the plane Qatar gave me. I don't know, throwing a little pawn piece. Like, wipe our debt out. let's start a new game. Bars for Vice President 2028. Gotta have some help here. I need somebody to
No, I'm
debate.
just thinking about that as a strategy, and I'm just like,
Ooh,
I don't see it. That's all.
why? How are we
Uh,
going to pay it? I mean,
I
we got to.
mean, another way you could put that is, hey, okay, so don't worry about the tariffs. We're paying them for you. And then when it comes to the debt, it's like, oh, the money's gone because we went to go pay it for your tariffs.
How long are Americans going to spend more before they, decide, you know what? That's not the company I want to buy from. Because with the tariffs this high, it makes sense to buy American.
What authority do they have to actually come in
Hold
and
on.
be
Oh,
and take away our things that we bought with the money that we borrowed from them? I mean, especially coming down to when we borrowed money for any kind of military, whatnot. I mean, look, if you're my neighbor and you come over and you sleep with my husband and you eat my sandwich and steal my favorite shoes and then say, "Hey, what about that $1,000 you stole on me?" Bitch, I will slap you. Okay, you're not getting your money. That's my money now. That's what you get. So when I mean, just to put that in perspective of if we're at war with another country, I just don't understand if we're going against you, if we're trying to stop you, then why are we giving you money? It doesn't click for me. My human brain doesn't understand.
Because the United States sells treasuries all over the world that people buy. So if defaulting on U.S. debt, including money owed to China, has global dire consequences, not only for the U.S., but for the global economy. It's going to lead to a financial crisis and damage the U.S. reputation and destabilize the U.S. the global financial system. It would be a horrible thing to default on it because every single day the United States sells treasuries all over the world to different countries. S- this started happening when in 71 when Nixon took the United States off the gold standard and started selling the faith of the goods and services of the United States. It would be the most worst, ignorant, uneducated, non economic understanding that anyone would do. We would never do that. Our banks, the banks would, it would just be a horrible situation.
But isn't that the trap we're in? Because we can't pay it. We're still borrowing.
Yeah,
we're,
you guys,
we're
you can't
still.
default on a debt. If
We,
you guys are
you,
recommending defaulting
I'm
on a debt,
like I said,
you guys don't know nothing about the economy. You
they don't,
guys don't know nothing about
uh,
anything. If
I
you
mean,
guys are recommending that we default on a debt and stop paying our debts and to China and everyone else, nah, that would make I guess our standing as a world currency that would pretty much tell the
it,
world that they can't count on us no more.
it would end
But isn't that the
The,
trap we're in? Because
no,
technically we
no,
can't pay the debt.
no,
That's the issue.
No,
No,
doesn't
the
work
United
that
States
way.
dollar is the de facto standard currency globally. Like, what are we talking about here, Jonathan? This is Econ 101 from the
Yeah,
eighth
I
grade.
don't say Jonathan. I didn't say that.
Well, hold on.
I know you
Let
didn't
me
say it.
ask you a question, Ty. Isn't Econ 101 if you owe more than like you should, something should happen about it?
Yeah, you shouldn't pass a big beautiful bill.
In other words, shouldn't you pay off your debt
Exactly.
first?
You shouldn't raise the. Thank you, Jonathan, for speaking clarity. Yes, sir, you're right. What he just said, everyone.
But
Yeah.
but Hillary, let me draw you closer to it, Hillary. I know you're in the movie industry, so let's say one of the biggest movie makers out there, MGM, you owe them money and you defaulted on them, and MGM is saying, "Hey, don't do business with Hillary all across the board," basically blacklisting you. Do you think you'll be successful in the future? That's the same way that we're looking at America. You can't default on nobody
So when do you
because
guys? Where do you guys have this vision of us paying this debt? When was
Great
that ever going to
question.
happen?
It's
we do so. We do so. No,
We pay maybe the interest. I think we're
we pay
behind on
interest.
that.
Yeah, we pay
That's
interest
crazy.
pretty much every. Yeah,
Well,
Oh,
So this is
you're okay with
also
that?
because the national debt is going the wrong way. I don't know if y'all realize that.
correct. And
so
it's also why
that's
there's talk about trying to get rid of the need to have the, you know, the government reach a spending limit. So every 6 months, we keep having to go back into Congress and say, look, we've hit the ceiling with our debt. We need to extend this further so we don't default on our notes. We don't lose our credit. We don't take the entire global economy down. There's been rumblings they want to actually try to get rid of that limit, which is a horrible idea.
because
In
we
other
go in
words,
more debt every time.
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But not bringing the United States, because of its tax laws that are geared toward a particular group, are not bringing in enough money into the coffers. That is one of the problems too. They this administration and others like it are horrible individuals when it comes to money management. Defaulting on the debt would cause like I said, a global financial crisis. The U.S. Treasury market is the cornerstone of the global financial system. The interest rates on the U.S. debt would skyrocket, and treasuries might lose their value as collateral, freezing the financial system. The damage to the U.S. reputation would it would be just as a debtor nation, it would
When
erode
you owe
confidence
as
in
much as we do,
financial
isn't our
stability.
reputation ruined?
Our
No,
That's what I'm
no,
saying. And
no,
newsflash,
no,
we
no,
are
no,
already
no.
defaulting on the
no,
debt.
no, no,
No,
we are
no,
not.
no, we're
No,
not.
Okay.
we are
All right.
not.
Economic disruptions, a default would cause significant economic disruptions, including a decline in global demand, job losses, and a potential collapse of trade finance. Like, do you guys understand
Now, my
the
It
implications?
also
My well,
suggestion
hold on.
is
My
changes.
question
hold,
is more if we're at a gun show, okay, and you and I have beef, and I know if I give you this $100 I owe you, you're gonna grab that gun right there. You're gonna buy that gun. You're gonna shoot me in the face. I'm not giving you the money. So I'm specifically talking to at war countries. Like if we do go to war with one of these countries, do we still have to give them money if they're going to use that money to turn around and kill us?
Hillary, Hillary, listen. So I'm going to make this extremely simple. While your examples may seem legitimate, they are not, right? With all due respect. And I'm going to explain why. If the US goes ahead and tries to default on its overall debt, specifically to China, it would then go ahead and dump more than $775 billion in US Treasury bonds, which would destabilize America, if not just for the short period, but for the long term period. What that means is the value of the US Treasury bonds, which is what we hold near and dear because it gives stability to our overall value as a country, and the reason why multiple countries want to invest in the US dollar and the US Treasury as a whole, that would increase interest rates for mortgages and make them unfucking believably high. Not just for mortgages, but for student loans and specifically for your industry. When it comes to lending money or big studios lending money to make more films, less films would be produced because they'd be tighter on their money because money has a greater cost. It would literally trickle in and impact every aspect of American society, not just oh, your shirts are going to get higher and your toys are going to get no. This will destabilize everything we hold near and dear. This isn't just oh, I'm not going to pay you back the $100 I owe you. This is people having more leverage against you that literally impacts your overall economy. So it's not just I'm not going to pay you your money. It's the I'm going to pay you the interest that I owe you because I'm still getting more money. And the fact that I owe you money means you'll never be broke. That's the principle that we're playing with.